Some of the most powerful voices in American industry are weighing in on whether the U.S. should keep its free trade deal with Canada and Mexico this week. The federal U.S. Trade Office is holding public hearings starting Wednesday as part of the mandatory review of the CUSMA trade deal next year. There's been over 1,500 submissions in advance, including from the U.S. National Association of Manufacturers, which says CUSMA, quote, is the most pro-U.S. manufacturing trade agreement in history. Automaker Ford goes even further, saying that under a renewed deal, Trump's sector-specific tariffs on goods like steel and aluminum should only apply to countries outside of North America. But some U.S. players are asking for concessions from Canada, too, like the International Dairy Foods Association, which calls on Washington to fix the broken access for U.S. dairy exports to Canada. So, will these hearings help or hinder Canada's pursuit of a renewed free trade deal with the U.S.? Julian Karaguesian is a former special advisor on international trade to the Ministry of Finance and a visiting lecturer on economics at McGill University. He's with me in studio. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you've read not all 1,500. Well, no. I'm going to call you out here, but more than 50 of these submissions to the U.S. Trade Representative. Yeah. What was your big picture takeaway for how much support there is for Canada?
I would say the overwhelming majority of the submissions I read, so I picked 25 on purpose, okay, and I picked 25 randomly, and the overwhelming majority are in favor of maintaining some form of free trade within North America.
And in terms of the argument that they are making, what would we want to know about that?
If you look at one of the biggest associations out there that's big business, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they're making the argument that all three countries benefit massively from the specialization that trade allows, that the supply chain integration, the competitiveness vis-a-vis the rest of the world. As you mentioned Ford. Ford mentioned that 80% of their vehicles are assembled in the United States, and then they benefit immensely from supply chain integration with both Canada and Mexico. You have the spirits associations of the United States, the Whiskey Association.
They want to get back in on those shelves, right?
Oh, yes, they do. And even like the Sunflower Association, there's so many different submissions.
That's I suppose, I want to laugh because it's surprising, but it also speaks to the breadth of the impact that we're seeing of some of these tariffs. The manufacturing group who called the deal the most supportive of its sector in history represents 14,000 companies. Yeah. How much sway can they hope, or can we hope, that they would have with the president?
I mean, they were careful to point out that they have companies in every state of the union, and that $3 trillion of the United States, $31 trillion of GDP is affected by trade and is represented by their membership, and that, you know, millions of jobs, 13 million they mentioned. So they have sway. Now, the Trump administration and President Trump seem to have some kind of plan to disrupt the system, to short-circuit global trade in favor of the United States. They want to re-industrialize the country and bring manufacturing jobs. They want to make America great again. But these associations and these big businesses that are American are saying that this is, very politely, they're saying this may not be the right way to do that.
Well, so this may not be the right way to do that against let's say, a president who, tariff man, the most beautiful world in the U.S., the English language. I've used tariffs to end several wars. Like, he, unlike you, sir, I imagine he's not reading these things. And I don't know to what extent he's influenced by politeness. So will this make a difference at all?
Well, these interests are heavily represented in the former Rust Belt, or in the Rust Belt states, in the farming states of the Midwest, and both of which are hurting. They may be benefiting in part from the steel tariffs, but manufacturing jobs are in their 8th or 9th month of decline. The farming states of the Midwest are hurting from the trade war with China. So it's not clear, at least in the immediate to short term, that President Trump's plan is working. He may make an argument that it may work in the long term, but I think if I want to read into President Trump's plan and those who are advising him, they may have a longer term plan that, and disruption may be part of it.
Do you think that Canada is likely to be better or worse off when we're done talking about the CUSMA renewal process?
Well, yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? I think that this current administration is not really interested, and they've said so directly to us, and they've said to Mexico as well. They're indifferent, they said, to whether there's a free trade agreement or not.
Yeah.
And so I think they prefer divide and rule, which would be 2 bilateral agreements, one with Canada, one with Mexico. And I don't think they want to do a 16-year renewal of CUSMA. Yeah. I think they want to do an annual review.
And I imagine that just means it's a bit hyperbolic, but endless instability, right? If we're talking about every year a new chance to open this up, as long as Donald Trump or someone of Trumpian views is president, the disruption is near constant.
It's worth noting that some of the young, under 40 conservative economists that advise the Trump administration, they say quite openly, and without trying to be pernicious, they say quite openly that disruption is their agenda. And that you have to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs. So I think what we're going to see, if the Trump administration can be convinced to renew CUSMA, I think they're going to try and extract the most concessions possible: critical minerals, energy, access to our water, dairy, and maintaining sectoral tariffs.
Well, it is a useful starter guide, if an unsettling one, to this period. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk us through this. Julian Karaguesian with McGill University.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.